Welcome to King County Connects, where we connect you with some of the important issues in the county. I'm Enrique Cerna. A criminal conviction can be a scarlet letter that can keep someone from getting a job and a place to live long after they've served their time. But now there's a new program to provide post-conviction relief and help people rebuild their lives. Joining us now is the Director of the Department of Public Defense, Anita, to talk more about this new effort and how it's going to help people out there. Welcome. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
So tell me, how did this idea of this post-conviction unit come about?
I think it was a confluence of many people having the same great idea. We were looking for opportunities to partner with the prosecuting attorney's office, and the executive was also looking for ways to intervene in the criminal legal system to make it a little less unfair. And counsel also had an interest in seeing public defense take on some of this work. And so for the budget for this biennium, they gave us funding for a pilot project to do post-conviction work to try to get criminal convictions vacated for individuals.
So how will this work then, this pilot project? Who are the people that have the opportunity to be helped here, and who are the people that are working to help them?
So people who have the opportunity to be helped are people with convictions that we are able that qualify under the statute for those convictions to be able to be vacated. And the statute lays out different criteria depending on whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony. The wait can be for eligible offenses as long as 10 years or as short as 3 years. But we have lawyers who are now on staff to help work with people who want their convictions vacated, so they can now call us. And where previously we would maybe try to help if we happen to have some extra resources or space, now we can consistently send them to a lawyer who can say, yes, you qualify, or no, you don't qualify, but here's the path to qualifying to vacate your conviction in a few years. And the work is really important because, as we know, the criminal legal system is very punitive, and carrying the badge of that conviction, the scarlet letter of that conviction through your life, even after you've done your time, as you try to apply for jobs or try to get housing, having to report that conviction can really get in the way of moving forward. And helping somebody turn their life around too, I take it. Exactly. More than anything else. Exactly. Yeah.
So tell me about the people on your staff then that are working on this. Let's say I'm someone who has just done time and I'm not quite sure what the level is, and maybe you can break that down of the different types of crimes they might have committed, but also how they then can be looked at as someone that might be able to be eligible for this, and then or is looking for a path.
So it's easy. You call our office, 296-7662.
All right, we'll put that in.
And let the person who answers the phone know that you're looking for help with post-conviction relief, and then we will send you to, we have a paralegal who will be assigned to work just on these phone calls, and then we'll send them out to the attorneys that we have who are funded to do this work. And those attorneys will work with you and tell you if you qualify, and then just get the paperwork filed for you and work with the prosecuting attorney's office to make sure everyone's in agreement and help move you forward. In many cases, or at least in some, people might not qualify because they have outstanding legal financial obligations. So one of the challenges of the statute is that you have to have paid off all of your LFOs. Mm-hmm. And so even if you don't qualify to get your conviction vacated, though, we can also help you get a payment plan for your LFOs or get your LFOs reduced so that you will put yourself in a position to qualify to get your conviction vacated in the future. So even if that's not the exact relief that you had hoped for, it's still a step on that path to turning your life around and to letting go of this badge.
So it's that kind of learning how you can qualify then to take all these things on so that you can then get that opportunity down the road here.
Absolutely.
What is this? We talk about a scarlet letter in the fact that it's difficult if you've gotten into the system and then you get out and then trying to find anything to either get a job or find a place to live. That's hard.
It is. I mean, I can tell you that I had a client who wanted help finding housing, and I was a brand new public defender and actually tried to go with him to housing places to vouch for his character. But the fact that he had a recent conviction made it such that nobody wanted to rent to him. And it was a really hard thing to watch. And it's really exciting now that we're in a place where we've all sort of countywide recognized the need to remove that. And we know that getting housed is the thing that helps you turn your life around.
Right.
So it not only helps the person who is trying to leave that conviction behind and move on with their life, it helps us as a community. If you think about recidivism, people who don't have access to housing and services are more likely to recidivate. And so if we can meet that need by helping them get into housing, that helps us all as a community.
Right. And not everybody has family that they can turn to when they get out to
No.
kind of help them, particularly if they have been inside for a long time.
Exactly. They don't have community connections and need time to build those. And one of the ways you build those is by sort of succeeding in the community and then building relationships. And if you can't find a housing or job, you find yourself really struggling to succeed in community and build those relationships.
And is that a point that you want the public to understand about this? Because, there are some people that just, the idea that somebody has served time, red flag, scarlet letter, and, they don't want to help.
Yeah, I think it's really important for people to understand that this program helps all of us. It helps the people who have the criminal convictions and are trying to turn their lives around and to show that they've rehabilitated and get jobs and contribute to our community. And it helps our community by making sure that we're not setting people up for failure, that we're not leaving them stranded with a scarlet letter that makes it so they can't move forward with their lives and may end up needing to steal in order to get food or sleeping under awnings and all the things that happen because people have not been able to reintegrate. So this is something that I think public safety advocates as well as public defender types like myself, we have a shared interest in this work.
You've been in this job for about 3 months. I know it's a busy job and a lot to it, but was this high on your list of things that you really wanted to try to?
Absolutely. It's in keeping with our mission of trying to help disentangle our clients from a system that we find is really harmful and oppressive to them. And what's really been great about this is the ability to partner with other people in this work, to partner. While the prosecuting attorney and I disagree about many, many things, we both have a shared value in people who have been in the system and have done their time. We should have pathways out of that system, and we're helping create that pathway, and that feels really rewarding.
Was this something that also that the prosecuting attorney, I guess, was a tough sell or easy sell because of the fact that, I mean, obviously you guys come from different ends of things, but was it something that he said, yeah, I think this is a great idea right at the time?
This is one of those, like I said, rare moments where we all sort of came in with the same idea and agreement that this is what should happen. And we were lucky enough to get pilot funding from the executive for both the prosecuting attorney's office and our office. And that was important because one of the ways that you get your criminal conviction vacated is you file a motion, and you have to have a prosecutor agree to that motion or respond to it in some fashion. And if they don't have the staffing to do that, the motion can just languish. Right. And so making sure that we're both staffed so that every motion that gets filed, optimally they agree to every single one, and the court goes ahead and orders the vacation of that conviction. So it was great that they were very much on board with the idea, and that the council and the executive saw fit to fund this pilot. And I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to show that it is meaningful in both helping people reintegrate and rehabilitate and in keeping us all safer, and so that will become an ongoing body of
work. So is the funding just for a year at this point?
It's
or
for
what?
a biennium, for 2 years.
For 2 years, okay. And then after that, do you go back to see, or is it all looking at the numbers to see what you've done?
I think it will be some looking at numbers. It will be some bringing the human stories forward of people whose lives have changed for the better because we've been able to offer this service.
Have you, I guess, has anybody started down the path yet, or is it too early?
Oh, no, we have had, since, I think the Seattle Times ran an article about this, and within, I think just a week or two of that article, we got approximately 50 phone calls, and we have started filing motions on behalf of individuals who qualify. For those who don't, we've started helping some of them work with their legal financial obligations so that they will ultimately qualify. So yeah, the work is very much ongoing.
How many people, or do you have any sense of how many people out there that could be helped?
Honestly, I don't. The fact that we've gotten
thousands?
yes, the fact that we've gotten so many phone calls so quickly tells me that the need for this service is great, and that there are a lot of people who are both really harmed by their criminal record and really looking to move their lives forward and remove the scarlet letter from their past, so that they can get housing and jobs and move on with their lives. So I think the need is great, but I can't quantify it just yet.
Yeah. So you're probably, well, this is one of the efforts to get the word out about this.
Absolutely.
And to let people know
Yes.
that this is going on. Right now, is this happening anywhere else in the state, or is it just here in King County that you know of?
That I know of, just in King County, where we've been lucky enough to get funding to systematically do this work, instead of sort of on a more limited basis, where, in the past, where if we had capacity, we might say, sure, we'll try to help this person. Now we actually have a resource dedicated to it, and I think we are unique and really fortunate for that.
Is it happening elsewhere in the country?
There are a couple of offices. The San Francisco Public Defender has a Clean Slate project that I think has worked similar to this. I think the Bronx Defenders might also. So there are a handful of public defense offices that have modeled this work, and so this is certainly from my perspective, it wasn't original. I was looking at what other public defender offices around the country were doing and wanting to steal their good ideas.
Yeah, right. Did you go there, or did you talk to the other folks in those places to find out how they set it up and what they were doing?
I mostly just read about it. The state statutes around the vacation of convictions differ, and so looking at the public defenders' websites and just reading how they implement it in their various jurisdictions was helpful, really, in just highlighting the idea that we should be taking on this work. But in the specifics, every jurisdiction, every locality is so different in terms of the laws that sort of once the idea was there, and that it became a matter of trying to make it very King County and Washington specific.
For some people that, I guess, could qualify for this, have they been, I guess, struggling for years? Could it be, 5 years, 10 years? Do you have any sense of, I guess it depends on the crime.
It depends on the crime, and for certain offenses are not eligible for vacation at all.
Like
others,
what? Like what?
so like a murder would not be eligible for vacation. But most property offenses, ultimately you can become eligible for vacation, which is great. And I think when employers or landlords ask about criminal convictions, they're not looking at the nature of the conviction. They're just looking at the fact of it.
Right,
and so
the fact that somebody has served the time or charged that they've been in prison. Yeah.
And so the fact that we are able to make it so that person can truthfully say, no, I don't have a conviction, really changes the outcome in many places for them.
Yeah. And is that the main thing for them to get that kind of wiped away, so that they have that opportunity to get the housing or the job more than anything else? Or can they say, even if they're do you think it helps them to say, hey, I'm part of this effort right now and working on that? Or can they use that? Is that something that would be valuable for them?
That's an interesting question. I think it would sort of depend on the employer or the landlord, but I certainly think it couldn't hurt to say that I'm working with a lawyer. I think I'm eligible to have this conviction vacated, and I'm trying to leave it behind. I'm on a path forward. I certainly don't see a downside, because if you're going to have to report the conviction anyway, because they're providing some context about work you're doing around it, I think it can't hurt.
Right. What have you heard from your people that are working on this about what they may have heard from the people that are calling in to say, do you think you could help me? Or have they been able to communicate that?
People are really excited that the county, that we have the resources to offer this service, and people really want to be able to move forward with their lives. I think the people that we haven't been able to help immediately have been disappointed. And specifically, people who have not paid off their legal financial obligations.
Is that the main thing that they face?
That is, yes.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, I think it is disappointing, but we can help them reduce or eliminate those legal financial obligations. We can file motions to make that happen. And also, it tells us something about what our policy advocacy needs to look like going forward. Can we envision a world where we get the statute changed so that the clock doesn't start ticking from the time that you've paid off your LFOs? Can we start the time ticking from when you finished serving time in prison or jail? Right. So I think all of this information, even when we're not able to specifically provide the exact relief that an individual client wants, can inform the kind of advocacy we do going forward to make sure that we have laws and statutes that really support people moving on with their lives.
So the financial obligations, can they be maybe fines that have been implemented or restitution that they have to pay to somebody else?
Exactly. It's all of the above.
Yeah.
And there is there's been recent case law by the Washington Supreme Court recognizing that people should have an opportunity to get those legal financial obligations reduced based on their ability to pay. And so we're able to file some of those motions and try to reduce the obligations that people have and help them get those things paid off so they can move forward. But yeah, right. So far, in its early days, one of the biggest obstacles that we're encountering to a complete clearing of the record is legal financial obligations. And I think, again, this information is going to be useful as we go forward in trying to figure out what kind of legislative advocacy we want to do around making vacation of convictions more available to people.
That seems to me to be really a challenge because, I mean, you're serving time. You can't really do much to try to start to bring that down unless you have somebody that has money, family-wise or friend-wise or something like that, that's willing to help you, which isn't going to be too likely. So the clock doesn't start ticking until you actually get out, and that makes it tough.
Exactly, and I am hopeful that we are pointedly collecting stories both of people we can help and people who we haven't been able to help, again, exactly the way they want. So we're identifying the barriers, and hopefully this will lead us to do some advocacy and a legislative push to change statutes in the future so that, because as you say, people who are in prison, they often don't have affluent family and friends sitting around willing to pay these debts off for them, and they are walking out with a lot of debt and making it so that they can't even begin to dream of clearing their record until they've paid off that debt. I think can feel very discouraging and challenging.
Yeah. Have you set any goals that you'd like to try to reach or accomplish in this, this first year and leading into the second year?
Because we don't know the nature of the demand, I don't. I mean, really, our goal is to try to help every single person who calls us.
Because you're learning about the demand right
yes,
now.
we're learning about the demand. And so my goal is very much that we will be able to help every person who calls us in some fashion. And whether that is in helping reduce their LFOs or helping them understand what other barriers are standing in the way of their vacating the conviction. Maybe not enough time has passed. Maybe their conviction is not eligible, but I think information is also powerful for people, for them to understand. For some people, like, well, in 2 more years you will be eligible, and versus you've been convicted of homicide. That's not something that we're going to be right. But I think giving people reality-based information about what their path forward could look like, I think is valuable. And so making sure that for every person who calls us, we provide something to them is really my only goal.
They have something that they can work to or toward as they try to get their lives together and going forward in all of this. What other types of things are you hoping to implement within the office? This is unique, and obviously it's has the potential of really helping a lot of people. Anything in particular you're looking beyond this that you can do, or is it just this the focus of something of that outreach?
Oh, I mean, we have tons of things that we want to do in the office. I've only begun. I'm 3 months into a 4-year term, but one of the things that
going,
a little bit, yes. But one of the things that we are really, at least that I really want to do, is find more ways to partner meaningfully with community-based organizations as we think about how to change our criminal legal system, how to reform it, or how to dismantle it, whatever the case may be. But to partner with communities who are impacted by the system, who have seen the effects of it on people in their lives, and to talk with them about what would meaningful change look like, and to sort of join arm in arm with them and push for that change. And so we want to be partnering more with community groups and getting the word out about this, but also have a desire for just a much deeper sense of working together on changing our system to make it less harmful and less unfair, and creating better pathways for people. A lot of our work right now has been focused on doing that in the juvenile context, and partnering with organizations like Community Passageways to try to envision a different path forward for kids who get themselves into trouble. Because we know that charges and prison time are not actually what change behavior, particularly for young people, and can really be harmful for them. And in fact, there's lots of research that says if you put a young person in the system, they're more likely to come out and commit more crimes. So if we know that's not working, how do we partner with the people who have the expertise, the members of the community who see what their community needs, how do we partner with them to push for programs and services that are really going to change pathways?
I think that's the big challenge for young people. Once you get into the system, is actually getting out of it, because it's sort of it just takes over your life, unfortunately, unless you're fortunate to have someone to help you or guide you to get out of it, and it's a huge challenge.
It is, and one of the things that one of the other services we do provide for people in the juvenile system are sealing of their court records if they're eligible, and in most cases they are. And so we work to make sure that those court records get sealed, so to try to help them not carry the scarlet letter forward. Right. But globally speaking, I mean, one of the big goals for the next 4 years is to deepen and develop meaningful partnerships with the community and to develop ideas for changing the system that are based in the lived experiences of people.
So are you going to have a concerted outreach that you'll be doing from people in your office, or is this part of that outreach that you're hoping to spread?
This is part of it, but I think, while I wish I had the budget to have someone who spent all of their time purely on community engagement, I don't have that budget, and so it's work that sometimes I do and other people within our office do. But I really want to try to create space for our staff to do that work, because I think public defense is very uniquely situated in that we're both in the system, but we're also critics of it, and we want our critique of the system to be informed and driven by the people for whom we work, and that those are our clients and their communities.
Yeah, you're in a very unique spot, because of that you're in the system as well as being on the outside kind of pushing the system.
Yes,
yeah.
There are some challenges, but
yeah.
It's interesting and fun.
Yeah, it makes for a great fun relationship with county prosecutors, I think, in most things that you're doing there. Are we making inroads, you think, in helping the young people out there?
Not fast enough. I think we, particularly here in King County, I think really are committed to trying to do things differently, but it's really challenging. And I think the more we can commit to our goal of zero youth detention, the more we can pull cases out of the system, the more we can provide resources in the community to our young people, the better off we will be. And I think this is a shared value. And I think the only sort of difference is the speed at which we implement that value. And for me, and for public defense, anytime we see a kid going into detention, we're going to say it's not happening fast enough. But I think there is a lot of motivation here to try to do something different and to try to help our kids succeed.
Is King County unique, you think, in that respect, as far as trying to make some efforts to help the young people? Even in this case, with dealing with someone that's been in the system at the adult
I think we are further than many, many places in the country and still not far enough.
Yeah.
Right. And again, it's when we don't have any kids in detention that I will say that we have gotten to where we should be. But given that we know kids do better in the community and that services provided in the community are the ones that are most meaningful and most effective, until we are all the way in that paradigm of helping young people succeed in their communities rather than pushing them into a system that we know is harmful to them and to their families, I'm going to say our work is not done.
Right. Yeah. Well, your work is not done, that's for sure. Yeah. The community responding to things like this, and also the work with helping young people. Is there enough, I guess, will out there to make a change, do you think?
We will build that will in partnership with community organizations. So I'm optimistic.
Yeah, and that's part of the work too of your folks to get out there to do that.
Absolutely.
To do that. That seems to me to be it's a big challenge, but the community engagement part of it seems to be such an important thing, so people even really understand what you do.
Exactly, and so we are trying to do, to get involved earlier. We're participating, for example, in high school civics days to to get out and to have kids learn about the criminal legal system and about the role of public defense in that system. We're trying to, we have high hopes of trying to reach out to undergraduate organizations as well and start building bridges early and develop those connections with younger people, hopefully with the idea of inspiring them to one day become public defenders and to have kids, young people from our community become people who work with us and bring the knowledge that of those communities into the office. But we're very much, it's a high priority. We haven't exactly figured out all the implementation details, but it's where we want to be.
Do you see this work as not just legal work, but also the sense of, I guess, fairness for people that maybe need to have some help, but also a social justice bent to it?
Absolutely. I think most of the people who come to work in public defense are there because they are social justice warriors. We see a system that we think is harmful, that we think is racist, that we think damages our clients and their families, and we want to both, in every individual case, do our best that we can for that client, while also raising a critique of the system and standing arm in arm with community partners to say, let's stop funding that system, let's shrink that system, let's put money and resources into systems that will be more socially just and more equitable and more fair and less harmful and that lead people to succeed and thrive.
Yeah. As tired as you may be in this first few months of doing this, is that what keeps you going?
Yes, it's both pieces, knowing that every day our staff are fighting for people who face this giant system that in many ways is overly punitive and punishing and racist, but also having this larger vision of partnering with the community to move away from this punitive way that we do things and towards a healthier world.
All right. So how about after this thing gets going for a while here, you come back and we talk about to see, how it's going?
I would love to.
Will you? All right, and we'll talk more about what the efforts are happening as far as helping young people that you're also working at as well. All right, try to get some rest when you're not working, okay?
We'll do that.
I really appreciate that you took the time to come here and talk about this, and also so that we get to know a little bit about what the Public Defender Department was all about, which I think is real critical in this county.
Thank you for talking to me.
All right, thank you, Anita. I appreciate it. Anita Khandelwal. All right, thank you for joining us for this edition of King County Connects. I'm Enrique Cerna. Visit us online at kingcounty.gov/KCTV, and we'll see you next time.